Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Sorry it has been so long since I posted my first video. Some crazy things happened in my life and I had to quickly move from where I was living at university back to my parents' home. So I am literally in a completely different state, as maybe you noticed by the completely different background. And so I had to drive halfway across the country, and then once I got here, figure out where I was going to film and where there was enough lighting and all that jazz. So sorry it's been so long, but I'm very happy to be back and I'm very glad that you're here. Thank you so much for everyone that commented on my first video and subscribed. I got a lot of really nice comments. A lot of people compliment on my glasses, so thank you. And I'm glad to be back and to be talking about books with you. Also, get used to seeing this baseball cap because my hair is getting very long and crazy and I'm too scared to cut it myself. So baseball cap it is for now. Also, now that I am here, my family, we have 3 dogs, so you might hear them walking around. Here comes one now, actually. Hi, Lily. Say hi. Okay, be free. You might hear them walking around and making noise. Hopefully they don't make too much noise. So this video is going to be the first video in... You okay? So this is going to be the first video in a 5-part series where I explore various books that have had impacts on me through my life. I separated them into 5 categories, or like 5 age groups. So the first one is my childhood, pretty much before I started going to school, elementary school, middle school, high school, and then beyond high school and like college and all that stuff. So these will be the books that had a big impact on me in my early childhood, usually before I started school. And here are some pictures of me from that age so you can get an idea of what I look like. I love seeing old photos of other people, so I figured you would like some here. Also, here's a photo of me and my dad when I was 1 week old, just because I think it's funny. So yeah, let's get started. So the first book I want to talk about is a book called Snug House, Bug House by Susan, Schade, and John Buller. I loved this book so much when I was a kid. I read it so many times. It's about these bugs that find a tennis ball and then they sort of make plans and build a house out of this tennis ball. And I loved it so much, I think because it was sort of whimsical and I loved the idea of bugs having lives, and I was like obsessed with a bug's life when I was a kid, so this sort of followed that same train of thought for me. When I was young, I would even like draw pictures of if I was a bug, what my house would look like and what it would be made out of and what I would look like as a bug, all that sort of stuff. The second book I want to talk about is a book called Piggies by Audrey Wood and illustrated by Don Wood. So Don Wood's illustrations are actually oil paintings, and so for me as a kid, that made it seem like they were really realistic, even though the pigs are kind of cartoony looking. And it's funny because when I was looking up about this book to sort of refresh my memory and figure out how I was going to describe it, a lot of what I found was saying, it's hard to describe, but when you read it, you'll know. And that's kind of how I feel about this book. It's about these pigs, and they kind of like live on a hand, kind of like the pig rhyme, and they're just kind of like doing their own thing as far as I can remember. But it was really the illustrations that really captivated me, and it has this really like bright tone to it where everything has this sort of yellowy orangey tone, and I was just so fascinated as a kid. And I found it kind of confusing. I didn't really understand the book, but I was like obsessed with it, and I would just look at it over and over and over again. Another book I want to talk about is a book called Sleepy Bears by Mem Fox and illustrated by Kerry Argent. This is another one of those books that I didn't really understand when I was a kid, but I was really captivated by the imagery. And it's about this family of bears, and they're about to hibernate for the winter, so they all get all snuggled up in bed, and then the mom is telling each of the bears like a bedtime story where they're the main character to get them to fall asleep. And it's really sweet and has really simple, I guess, like there's not a lot of scenery in the background, but also really detailed illustrations that I really loved when I was a kid. And this was another one of those books that I just loved to look at and flip through because each of the bears has their own sort of characteristics. And each time the mama bear tells them a story, they are the main character and they have sort of like props and a little bit of scenery that follows their imagination into their like bedtime routine. And I just thought it was really sweet when I was young. And again, the imagery was just really, really fascinating to me. Another book that I really, really, really loved when I was a kid is The Snowman by Raymond Briggs. This book is a wordless book. It's told completely in visuals, and I loved it as a kid. I think it was one of the books that really inspired me to pursue visual media and visual art. And so you follow this snowman, and it's just all told in visuals, and I was really intrigued by that as a kid because even before I knew how to read, I think I understood that this book was different and that sort of how you viewed it is how the story went. And I was just really captivated by that idea, even though I didn't really have the language to express why. I thought it was really fascinating, and I would just flip through the book over and over and over again. I think trying to discern what the story was supposed to be about without realizing that it was sort of an open for interpretation. And once I realized that, it became like this new beautiful story that I realized the reader was actually part of the authoring of the story, and I thought that was really cool. Another book or book series that I really liked when I was a kid is Dogzilla, and then the second book called Cat Kong by Dave Pilkey. Dave Pilkey is the author of Captain Underpants, and Dogzilla and Cat Kong are sort of picture books that he had where he took pictures of his pets and cut them out, and then the background is like an illustration. And I honestly don't entirely remember what these books are about. I was just sort of scared of them as a kid, which seems kind of counterproductive of like, why would this be a book that's important to you? But I, again, like a lot of these other books, I was really captivated by the visuals. And even though I was sort of afraid of them, facing my fears of them was also like a really important part of my childhood, because they're not like scary books. I think just as a young child, the idea of monsters is really scary. And so the experience of being afraid of them, but then overcoming that fear and reading them was like really important to me. And again, I just loved the visuals so much. And I just was so captivated by that style of, again, like photography and illustrations. It has a very distinct look because of that, especially thinking of how a lot of children's books, especially that I had when I was young, were illustrations, and the uniqueness of the photographs and the illustrations was really unique to me and really captivating. And I remember like being in school and Captain Underpants, I think he wrote these before Captain Underpants, and Captain Underpants was really popular when I was young, and I was like, I liked Captain Underpants, but I was really obsessed with these books. And when I found out that they were by the same person, that was insane to me. And I tried to tell people about it because I guess I assumed if people knew about Captain Underpants, surely they had to know about Dogzilla and Cat Kong. And kids that I was around never knew about these books. And so it was very odd to me that they didn't know, because I thought these books were so much fun and so cool. The last book I want to talk about is Tacky the Penguin by Helen and Lynn Munsinger. This book, I don't know why I loved it so much. I think partially because my style now is clearly inspired by Tacky the Penguin, but I just thought it was sort of funny as a kid. And it's this penguin, and he doesn't really follow the rules of the other penguins. He kind of just does his own thing. As you can see, he has this bright Hawaiian shirt that he wears, and all the other penguins are kind of annoyed by him until one day his weird antics save them. And I just thought it was sort of funny as a kid. I was obsessed with penguins, and that's probably why I really liked this book for the most part. It was just because it was about penguins, but also I just thought it was really funny, the idea of penguins like being conscious enough to know that's when someone is being different, and like the ability to be different and to wear clothes. I just thought was really funny as a kid. And the illustrations are just so funny to me. Tacky the Penguin is like this little penguin that's like kind of hunched over, and I just thought they were so interesting as a kid. And the story of just like beating to your own drum and doing your own thing was really important to me as a kid. So those are the books from my childhood that had a big impact on me. If you want to tell me books from your childhood that you loved in the comments down below, I would love to hear them. And I will see you all in the next video. See ya!